Hey everyone, quick thing before we dive in. I was looking at my analytics and it turns out most of the people watching aren't actually subscribed. See this? Way more views than subscribers. If you're enjoying the videos and want to see more, hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and you'll never miss new uploads. Alright, let's get into it.
I can pinpoint the exact moment my world shattered. Tuesday, 2:17 p.m. A text from Sarah. We need to talk. Those 4 words that always mean the same thing. 4 hours later, she was gone, taking 5 years of my life with her. I'm sorry, she said, not meeting my eyes. It just happened. It being her and Kevin, my best friend, the guy who was supposed to be my best man next spring. I found out later they'd been seeing each other for months, planning, plotting, laughing at how clueless I was while they slept in our bed when I worked late. The betrayal was physical, a constant ache beneath my ribs where something vital used to be. The apartment felt cavernous after she left. Every room echoed with absence. Her mug with a tea ring on the counter, a hair tie on the nightstand. I threw myself into work, into mindless TV, into scrolling until my thumb went numb. Nothing worked. The emptiness persisted, growing deeper, hungrier. Sleep became my enemy. Every night the same dream. Sarah and Kevin together, happy, while I watched from outside, forehead against cold glass. I woke gasping, clutching at sheets soaked with sweat. After 2 weeks of this, I took the doctor's advice and filled the prescription for sleeping pills. That's when the dreams changed. The first night I took the pill, I dreamed of a corridor, long and quiet. The walls were the deep blue of evening after the sun is gone, but before the street lights choose to help. A single light blinked at the end of the hall, alternating red, then blue, slow and steady, like a metronome. I walked. My footsteps sounded normal. When I reached the door at the end, it looked ordinary. Unpainted wood, silver handle. Warm under my palm, like someone had just left. Behind me, a voice spoke. You carry such emptiness.
I turned. A figure stood where the hall began. It looked like Sonic at a distance, the outline and height right, but the edges were wrong. The head seemed slightly too large, the arms a shade too long, and the smile held too much mouth. The eyes were what I remember most, black around the pupils, and in the center, 2 small yellow points, not glowing exactly, but alive. The kind of yellow you still see when you close your eyes after looking at something bright.
Who are you? I asked. My voice sounded like it does when you talk in an empty room, too loud and too soft at the same time. It tilted his head a little too far. Yukubo, he said, guardian of desire. What do you want? I asked. It isn't about what I want, he said. It's about what you want. He gestured at the door. What do you desire most? To hurt them as they hurt you? To make them feel the hollow they carved into you? To be chosen again and never unchosen? I should have been terrified. I should have run. Instead, I nodded because he had said the exact words that lived in my chest like a second pulse. Yes, I said. Then open the door. I turned the handle. Beyond was Sarah and Kevin's new apartment. I knew it from the photos they had already started posting. Same cheap bar stools, same gray couch. They were asleep in bed, tangled together. Kevin snored with his mouth open. Sarah's hair was spread across his shoulder. I stood in the doorway and watched. It wasn't rage I felt. It was something cleaner. A simple wish. I want them to feel this. Good, Yukubo said behind me. And I woke in the dim of my bedroom with my heart knocking hard like someone at the door who knew I was home. I told myself it was the pills. The second night, I didn't take one. The same corridor came anyway, the same door. This time, when I opened it, I stepped into their kitchen. The clock on the oven blinked 3:04. A half-full wine glass waited beside the sink. a cutting board with lemon wedges on it. I picked up a lemon wedge and squeezed it until the pulp collapsed.
When I let go, my fingers smelled like summer. I heard someone breathing in the next room. I turned to leave, and there he was in the doorway. Yukujobo, exactly as before, with that near-familiar body and those yellow points where the centers of eyes should be.
You want them to see you, really see you. You want the choosing to be visible and permanent. He didn't ask. He stated what I had never said out loud. "Can you do that?" I asked. He nodded once. "I can teach you how to want the right way." "How?" "Small wishes first," he said. "You feed them. You stop wasting your appetite." I woke with the smell of lemon still clinging to my fingertips and a single phrase stuck in my head. Stop wasting your appetite.
The next day, I made a list without really deciding to. It wasn't a ritual. It felt practical. I wrote in my notes app, small wishes. I typed 4 things. Finish the report before noon. Eat real food. Don't text Sarah. Sleep without pills. They were boring things. Possible things. I did 3 of the 4. The report went out. I made eggs. I put my phone in a drawer. I failed the last one. At 2 in the morning, I was still awake. My brain started running laps. I got up and stood by the window, forehead against the glass, and watched a single car make a left turn too fast and correct smoothly, as if the driver had practiced. When I finally fell asleep, the corridor welcomed me back. "Better," he said when I stepped in. "Your hunger is cleaner today." We walked together for a while, side by side. Up close, he looked even more like something wearing a Sonic suit that almost fit. The fur was darker than I remembered from the games. The shoes were gray, not red. When he smiled, I saw more teeth than made sense. Not rotten, yellow like ivory. His eyes had that same black field with the small yellow points. There were dark stains below them, thin as smudged bruises. He noticed me looking and didn't look away. "Side effects," he said. "Pain leaves marks. So does birth." We stopped in front of another door, painted blue this time. He put his hand on it and left no print.
We start with what is already yours: attention, approval, convenience. You stop letting them drift. When you want something small, you take it without apology.
The door opened onto my office. Same cheap carpet, same hum of air conditioning. Frank, from 2 desks over, leaned back in his chair and said something funny. People laughed. In the dream, he didn't look like a person in a dream. He looked like Frank, under fluorescent lights. In the dream, I walked to my boss's door and knocked. He waved me in. "Just a quick second," I said. "I'm taking lead on the Harris account. I'll send the plan this afternoon." "You can handle it?" he asked, surprised. "Yes." He nodded. "All right, send it." The dream ended there. I woke with the plan already outlined in my mind like bullet points on a slide. I wrote it before 9. He approved it at 10. At lunchtime, I ate a sandwich and actually tasted the bread. I went for a short walk outside, let the sun touch my face, and felt, for 10 straight minutes, almost normal. When the craving to text Sarah came, I stared at the ceiling, let it crest, and watched it pass. I thought maybe this is what healing feels like, just doing the small things correctly, one after another. That night, the corridor again. A new door. A diner booth, like the one Sarah and I used to sit in after late movies.
The server refilled coffee without asking. A song I loved in high school played low on the radio. I felt the ache pull hard and then loosen. Small wish. Met. When I looked over the back of the booth, Yukubo sat at the next table with his hands folded. He nodded once, like a teacher checking off a lesson. "You see," he said, "small wishes are fuel. Don't spill them." "How long does this go on?" I asked. "As long as you need, until what you want is simple." "What do I want?" I asked. "You want to be chosen. Chosen and ended perfectly." I didn't argue. I didn't understand the second half, not really, but I also didn't misunderstand it. There are phrases that arrive like keys for doors you'd known were locked. Ended perfectly. Just a quiet room where the light is exactly right and you set down what you're carrying and never pick it up again. Days passed. I ate. I worked. I didn't text Sarah. I slept less, but when I did sleep, I walked the corridor, learned the shape of my appetite like a map. I wished for small things: a seat on the train when my legs hurt, a cool breeze when the office went stale, the right words in a meeting, a stranger's smile that wasn't a romantic thing, just basic human care. The wishes arrived like single drops and disappeared into the day. I kept thinking about the list in my phone and the fact that for the first time since the breakup, I was doing what I said I would do. I didn't feel proud. Pride didn't have a place. On the 9th night, after I had fallen asleep on the couch with a blanket crooked over one shoulder, the dream corridor ended in a room I hadn't seen before. It looked like a church basement. Harsh lights, folding chairs, a water cooler, a whiteboard with markers that barely worked. A handful of people sat spaced apart, each with a paper cup of water. They looked like people you'd see at the DMV, tired, wearing practical shoes. A woman in a gray cardigan stood and smiled at me. She said, "You must be Michael," using my name like she'd been waiting to meet me. "Yes," I said. "I'm Ruth. We're a small group. You're among friends." They went around the circle and introduced themselves with first names. No one said where they worked. No one said where they lived. They talked about wanting like it was weather. "I wanted to call him," one woman said, staring at her hands. I didn't. A man with a neatly trimmed beard said, "I wanted to be the spiteful one. I did not." A college kid with chipped nail polish said, "I wanted everything to stop making noise. I put on headphones, and it helped."
It felt like a support group without the slogans. When it was my turn, I said, "My fiancé left me for my best friend." I expected pity. None came. Only nods. Ruth said, "I'm sorry you were unchosen. We don't fix that here. We learn to want cleanly." "How?" I asked. She said, "We practice. We practice and we listen." "To who?" I asked, even though a part of me already knew. "To the one who made wanting safe," she said. "To the one who finishes what we begin." No one said the name. No one had to. After the meeting, Ruth handed me a card. No logo, no contact info. One sentence printed in a clean serif font: "You don't have to hurt anymore." On the back, a location and a day. Thursday, 7 p.m. A different address than the church. A storefront I knew on the edge of downtown that had been empty for months. "What is this?" I asked. She said, "Just coffee and people who want what you want." The next day at work, I tried to be suspicious of the whole thing. Cults don't show up in church basements with water coolers and paper cups. They show up with chanting and robes, at least according to TV.
But the people had looked ordinary in the way most people are ordinary. No slogans, no donation plates, just quiet relief, like the kind you feel when the bus finally rounds the corner after you've been waiting in the cold. I went on Thursday just to see if my dream was real, and there really was a group. The storefront had paper covering the windows from the inside and a handwritten sign on the door, "Meeting in progress." When I walked in, the paper cups had been upgraded to actual mugs, someone had baked cookies. There were 10 of us this time. Ruth smiled from across the room. A man in his 50s with kind eyes introduced himself as Father Harlan, which he'd told us was a joke that got out of hand. "Not a priest," he said, "just a father to 2 good kids and once to a son who never made it to his next birthday." I learned a lot about wanting the hard way. We sat. No candles, no chanting. He talked about desire like it was a muscle you could injure using it wrong and heal using it right. He said most people begged the world for relief in 1,000 directions and starved to death surrounded by crumbs. He said we would learn to eat one meal. There is a pulse under your want, a way the heart remembers the thing it's meant to beat for. Someone asked, "What is it?" Harlan smiled at the question the way a teacher smiles when the lesson has reached the right place. He tapped the table twice. Then he said, "We don't name him here, not at first. We prepare. We clean the plate." On the wall behind him, a projector threw up a simple image. 2 circles, one red, one blue. They pulsed in and out of phase, then clicked into alignment. Nothing supernatural happened. There was no vision. Just a graphic and a man talking about hunger like a map. And yet, I left feeling steadier than I'd felt in months. The dreams changed. The corridor remained. But the doors stopped showing me Sarah and Kevin. They began to show me myself, not in a mirrored way, but in plain scenes I could survive. My kitchen sink, scrubbed and clean, the bed made, a fresh shirt in the morning that hadn't kept the shape of a collapsed night, a steam cloud rising from a bowl of soup in winter, a sunlit Saturday morning without plans. I woke from these dreams and did what they showed me. Each action hammered the same nail. Want one thing at a time. Take it. The more I did that, the less I wanted to make Sarah suffer. Not because I forgave her, because wanting her pain felt like eating cotton. There was no food in it. When I slipped, I told the group. No one shamed me. Ruth would say, "You spilled, wipe it up." Harlan would say, "Small wish tomorrow. Don't be clever, be faithful." It was the first place since the breakup where I didn't have to perform being okay. I was allowed to be a person who had been unchosen and now wanted to live in a room where choosing still happened. I wanted direction. I wanted mornings that didn't begin with checking her social media just to confirm she was still gone. I wanted to stop counting the things I didn't have. So when Yakubo appeared in my dreams again, the corridor didn't look endless anymore. It opened into rooms, bright, familiar rooms I'd never lived in. The first time there was a kitchen with yellow light and a woman's voice humming to a radio. She called me love. I didn't see her face. The second time there was a child laughing in the next room, chasing something small and quick down a hallway. The third time the house had a garden and the air smelled like lilacs. Each time Yakubo stood nearby, watching with those unreadable eyes. "You're healing," he said. "This is what comes after." He never said when, he never said how, only that the door at the end of the hall led to home. The meeting started to feel like therapy. We didn't talk about hunger anymore.
We talked about healing, about building the lives we deserved once we stopped clinging to what hurt us. Ruth said the same thing every week. Desire is not evil. Desire is direction. I told Ruth about the dreams. She smiled like she already knew. Dreams are rehearsals, she said. The source shows us what's waiting once we're whole. The source, I repeated. Is that what we call it? She nodded.
where all love begins and all love returns. I didn't question it. I didn't think of cults or monsters. They never asked for money, never made predictions. They only asked us to keep coming back and to practice wanting without shame. So I did. I deleted every photo of Sarah and Kevin. I stopped replaying old arguments. I bought a plant for my apartment, then a rug. Small things. But the emptiness started to feel less like pain and more like space, like waiting. In dreams, the rooms filled themselves. The woman's face grew clearer each night. Dark hair, soft laugh, kindness in the eyes. The child had my nose. When I lifted them, they laughed and reached for me. Every detail felt solid. The warmth of the lamp, the hum of the refrigerator, the heartbeat I felt against my chest when I held the child close. "You see," Yukibo said, "you're remembering what peace feels like." "Is this real?" I asked him once. "It can be, if you're ready." "How do I get there?" He looked toward the far end of the house, a door I hadn't noticed before, white and plain. "When you open it," he said, "you'll wake up to what's been waiting all along." Ruth called it the threshold. When she spoke about it during meetings, the others nodded like they knew it. You'll feel it when you're close, not fear, anticipation, like before a first kiss. The phrase stayed with me. Before a first kiss. That night, I dreamed again of the house. The woman, my wife, I thought, was reading on the couch. The child was asleep upstairs. The smell of rain came through the open window. Everything was warm and ordinary, heartbreakingly ordinary. I sat beside her, and she smiled without looking up. "You'll be late," she said. "For what?" She tilted her head toward the back door, the white one, the same one Yukibo had shown me. "It's time to come home." When I stood, my hands were trembling. The doorknob looked familiar, like something from my childhood home. My reflection in the glass pane was smiling. That's when I heard Yukibo's voice again, distant but clear. "You've learned well. You no longer crave pain, only peace. That's how we know you're ready." The woman looked at me with love so real it hurt. "We're waiting," she said. I woke just before I turned the handle. That was 3 nights ago. Since then, everything feels quiet. My coworkers say I look better, lighter. I believe them. The dreams don't frighten me anymore. They're promises, not warnings. Tomorrow night, the group is meeting again, but Ruth said it's not like the others. It's a celebration, she told me. When you finished wanting the wrong way, the source calls you to want the right way. She slipped a card into my pocket. No address, just a time. And under it, one sentence. The door will be open. I've written this down because I want to remember what it felt like before everything finally made sense, before the ache turned to anticipation. If anyone finds this, don't worry. I'm not doing anything stupid. I'm not saying goodbye. I'm just ready. Yukibo says, once I open the door, the dream becomes real. There's a family waiting on the other side, one I deserve, one that never leaves. And for the first time in my life, I believe him. I hope they'll let me bring the plant. It's growing so well lately. Maybe it'll like the new place too. I'll be home soon.